afternoon, everyone. My name is Vivek Rathi. I head research at Knight Frank India. And in terms of a brief introduction, Knight Frank is an international property consultancy present since the last 130 years with a global headquarters at London, India head office in Mumbai. We are present in India for the last 30 years. Have offices in the principal top 8 cities. Some of you must have come across the research that we do. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes today to share the findings of our flagship wealth report, which is published out of our London office. It is done every year. This is the 19th edition and captures key elements of wealth movement and whatever the wealthy would like to associate with, whether it is to do with their investments or consumption. Now, mind you, this is the segment of population which represents the top 1% globally, and therefore very specific to this 1% population, which is generally defined as people with a net worth of 10 million US dollars, an equivalent of 85 crore Indian rupees. So this edition, when we did the wealth report, what did we find in terms of the wealth trends? Now, globally, there were a host of challenges in 2024. However, in the backdrop of all of these challenges, the wealthy in across the globe continued to increase, particularly led by the North American region and the Asia region, where the growth rate was the highest in the population of people with net worth of 10 million US dollars. Why did this happen? A host of reasons, whether it is on the global landscape or the country where we are in India. Now, if you look at there were a lot of challenges in the lower segments and the mid segment, but when it came to the higher segments, high income segments, high net worth segments, all of the asset classes, whether it is equities which grew by say 10 to 12% in India, or in S&P 500, which is a parameter for global equities, grew by 25-26% in 2024. Gold again appreciated by 25-26%. Prime property, and you'll see the numbers here, appreciated by 8 to 10% in the key prime residential markets globally. Crypto assets also performed well in 2024. So, in a nutshell, what happened is all of the variables which represents the wealth of this particular segment of consumers, this continued to improve in 2024, and that is the reflection which we see on the numbers on these slides. If you see all of the numbers here, Asia, particularly Asia and North America, are the biggest cohorts of the high net worth individual population. Currently, almost a million people in both of these regions, and then obviously you have other markets. So in all, in 2024, as per our assessment, there were 2.3 million people with a net worth of USD 10 million, and this is forecasted to grow to 2.5 million in 2028. The big markets where these high net worth individuals reside, the top one being US, which accounts for 35% share. Then you have China at 20% share, Japan at 5% share. Now India is at a very attractive position. It ranks fourth, and there are 85,000 high net worth individuals in the country who possess a wealth of 85 crores plus. The billionaire segment, this is again another dimension, which is again a very small cohort, but what this chart highlights is the billionaire market is huge, but mostly accounted by the US, and with $5.7 trillion worth being held by the billionaires in the US. The next 10 markets account for an equivalent of this sum. India is positioned at number 4 with an aggregate wealth of 0.95 trillion. So this kind of showcases how is wealth concentrated in different markets, and accordingly will show up in any element, including property. We run a lifetime luxury investment index research which is covering aspects beyond real estate. Your asset classes, investments of passion like handbags, jewelry, coins, art, whiskey, wine. What we noted is in the last 12 months, it turned a negative return, 3% negative, but over the last 10 years, it appreciated by 72%. What does it highlight? It highlights that beyond the traditional investments, which is whether it is equity or gold or debt, there are avenues which these wealthy continue to engage with, and in the last 20 years, the lifetime luxury investment index performed better than the S&P 500 on a cumulative basis. So $1 billion worth in 2025 grew to $5 billion in the S&P 500, whereas it grew to about $7.5 million, $6 million in the lifetime luxury investment index, which is the basket of all of the asset classes we saw in the previous slide. Now, a closer look at the India findings when we're talking about only the 85,000 high net worth individuals here in the country. So in India, this is the scale of wealth. There are 191 billionaires as on 2024 December. This was up 12% compared to the previous year, and in aggregate, like I just mentioned, they account for $9.95 trillion worth. About 85,000 such people, and India holds a very strong position here with the fourth rank across the markets after US, China, and Japan. This count, so in 2024, India outperformed in terms of the growth of the wealthy. India grew by 6% compared to the global average of 4%. Going forward in the next 4 years, this outperformance is likely to continue as per our forecast. So there is going to be a 9% growth in the count of high net worth individuals in the country. To give you a snapshot, so we do this exercise every quarter, which is called Prime International Residential Index, a basket of 100 prime properties. What it highlighted is the prime property markets across this 100 basket continued to grow. Indian cities also participated, and many of the Indian cities improved their ranks in 2024. Different markets offer a different value proposition, but what really came out is India offers a much better relative proposition, and then obviously, like most of the speakers today have been talking about property overseas, and all of them have their own dynamics. We conducted a survey of the next generation wealthy, which are individuals in the age group of 18 to 35 and with an income level of $125,000 here in India. And what came out clearly was these set of individuals prefer ownership over renting when it comes to the property where they stay. Going forward in the next 1 year, 65% of them intend to upgrade their property. The inclination for prime property continues, but the top choices that came to use their wealth was luxury at number 1, high-end real estate at number 2, and then private jet. In terms of the traditional investments, the mix is different on an average for the country as a whole. But when it comes to this cohort, the first is stocks, which is 23%, followed by property at 21%, and then cash. Cash is fixed income instruments at 22%. So these are some of the findings, and more details are available in our report. And I and my colleague Reshmi is here to talk more on our boards and our findings. Thank you, everyone.